Lazy Fluency Podcast へようこそ。お互い英語と日本語を切り替えながらカジュアルな会話を通して皆さんと一緒に言語を学んでいきます。I am です。
And I'm Joey.
そして今日のテーマは国際結婚。その前にいいね、チャンネル登録、フォロー、また聞いているプラットフォームでレビューもお願いします。Ko-Fi でのサポートもよろしく。それでは今日のテーマ、国際結婚。
Today we're talking about international marriages, but more specifically, international marriages between Japanese people and non-Japanese people. As to why, well, recently there's been for one, there's already pretty interesting differences between who Japanese men marry versus who Japanese women marry, but there's been a huge increase in Korean men marrying Japanese women. Like I think it was like 40% over the last year. Today we're going to talk about all about that. Like why might that be the case? What kind of men are Japanese women looking? Obviously, there are people who are gay. This is like more of like the statistics are related to heterosexual relationships in Japan. It's not even, for marriages, it's not even legal nationally. So just bear that in mind. But yeah, exactly. Like what it might mean or what kind of expectations a Japanese man has for a potential wife partner and vice versa for women. The first thing I want to, we'll jump into the Korean thing, but I kind of want to, do you see it's a top link in our document here? It has the, basically a graph, and actually I'll throw this up on screen for people on YouTube because the visual aid will help, but I'll try to explain it the best possible. On one side we have Japanese men, on one other side we have Japanese women, and then there's an over time graph over the years about what percentage of the people, like the marriages, have been what ethnicity. It's kind of hard to explain the way it's set up, but Aimi, do you want to maybe break down some of the graph?
なんか、日本の男女別で国際結婚相手の国別のね、比率をなんかグラフっぽいので表してるのがあるんだけど、これがね、結構日本の男の人と日本の女の人で結構違って、日本の男の人は、一番相手の国が一番多いのが中国かな？中国で、その次に韓国、朝鮮。で、その次フィリピン、その次タイ。で、あとは、これアメリカは少ないのかな？アメリカ少ない。で、ブラジル、そんぐらいかな。
Isn't AOKOK technically Britain?
Britain.
Yeah, so not even America.
米国が、
米国 is there too. But that's on the right side, but not. It's barely. You're right. The bear is barely there. It's barely there.
で、そうね。だから日本の男の人の結婚相手は大体、アジア系。ね。アジア系でも特に多いのが中国。
1992 to 2023. And there have been some movements over time. Like the top 4 for Japanese men wife candidates, or not wife candidates, but marriages, has been very consistent, being Korea, China, Philippines, and Thai. And everything else is much, much smaller. In terms of percentage, it looks like, 1992, Japanese men marrying Koreans was around 30%. Now it's around, 15%. China was around, it looks like 20%, and now it's around 30%, 25-30%. Philippines is around 30. It looks like it's now around 20. And then the rest is like, Thai is like 8%, and everything else is like very, very tiny. Just giving you an idea of the scale. But do you want to break down the women?
で、女の人の方が、一番多いところが韓国、朝鮮ね。で、次にね、多いのがね、アメリカなんだよね。で、その次に中国。で、イギリスとタイとか、イギリスとフィリピンか、が同じぐらい。で、あと、ブラジルっていう感じ。で、そうね、だから、日本の女の人は、韓国、朝鮮と結婚する人が一番多いね、この中だとね。 で、次にアメリカっていう感じ。
I said one of the reasons I was interested in doing this topic is because I saw the article like there was a huge increase in marriages. I think a little bit like when you look at this historically, like this was I think from 2024 to 20 or was it 2023, 2024, either 2024 to so far where we are in 25. If you look at it historically, Korean men have already like always been the most popular for Japanese women, and it used to be even more so the case. Like at its peak in like at least with this recording in 1992, it was almost at 40%. Historically, it was much more the case than it is now. Like now, as or 2022, it dropped down to 22% versus like being almost at
これさ、
40%.
ちょっと不思議なのがさ、今って K-POP とかさ、なんかそういう韓国の流行ってんのって、前もう10年とか20年前とかよりはさ、今のが流行ってるかなとは思うんだけど、でも、パーセント的には落ちてるじゃん。だから、なんでかな、でも。
Recently, it's been increasing. And like I said, man, I actually should have linked this one. As of this year, I don't know if I actually have it in the document, but as of this year, there was like a rise of 40% over last year. So based on where we were in 2020, I mean, it's hard to see because this goes up to 2022, but there has been a big increase very recently.
あ、そう。
Like very recently. Yeah. But historically, they've always been popular. First, I guess maybe we can talk about why you think they might be rise, but I'm curious to know about why you feel. We can start with men, maybe, or maybe you want to start from the woman's perspective. Maybe you can start from the woman's perspective. Like, does this make sense to you? If you're seeing this, you're looking at Japanese women over the time, 1992 to 2022, Korean, Chinese, Korean, American, and then Chinese, Brazil, and then Britain.
Philippines, Britain, Brazil.
Well, I mean, where's the Philippines? They're tiny. No. I mean, they're tiny in terms of percentage.
No, orange のとこ。
Yeah, I'm saying, does that... No, that's China.
No, orange
the
は
light orange yellow is Philippines, yeah.
あ、そう、
I'm saying, does this make sense to you? Like, would you have
なん
guessed
か
this?、
結構ね、納得めちゃめちゃする感じはあるし、
Why?
まあその、お父さんとかお母さんが、まあどっちとかね、どっちが韓国人とか、どっちが中国人とかわかんないけど、普通に学校行ってて、で、結構なんかハーフの人いるじゃん。あんまり表には出さないけどね。で、ハーフの人は、大体でも韓国が一番多かった気がするな。韓国、お父さんかお母さんがどっちかが韓国でっていうのが、二人、いや、高校の時は知ってるのが多分一人二人ぐらいいて、で、一人は、お母さんが中国っていう人いたから、まあそうね、韓国中国は少なくとも多くて、で、まあ小学校の時。
I mean, that makes sense in terms of just proximity. What's
まあね、
interesting
そ
to
う。
me...
フィリピンもいたよ。
I'm saying what's interesting to me is... I mean, there's a lot... I mean, we'll talk about the men's graph in a second, but in terms of the women's graph, the thing that interesting me is how big Korea is relative to China. Like, China is right there, as well, and is way larger population. You know what I'm saying? And I think, especially, a lot of people might see... I mean, we've talked about some podcasts before, but obviously there's a lot of beef as like governments between Japan, Korea, and China. But you couldn't tell it based on this graph. And actually, I do want to mention one fun thing. This was another article that came up recently, that sentiments from Korea towards Japan are like a historical high. So Koreans feel favorably about over half of Koreans responded in a recent survey that they feel favorably towards Japanese people. But it was actually funny because that was not the case reciprocally. As in Japanese, on the Japanese side, they still feel or I guess not as positively. But anyways, bring it back into this situation. Why do you think that women or Japanese women are into Korean
K-POP でしょ。K-POP で、
K-pop?
なんていうの、まあ、男の人もそうだし、女のね、人の、K-POP どっちもあるけど、それで、まあ、身近に感じるとかも絶対 100% あって、 そうね。あと結構
But
最近そういう新しい K-POP のグループとかも出てきてて、なんか、私ここのグループ好きみたいな掛け持ってたりとか、まあ、そうね、新大久保とかも多分昔は、あんまし、なんて言うんだろうね。昔ね、冬のソナタっていう韓流ドラマが流行ったわけよ。それ、まあ、その韓国の俳優さんとか、なんかちょっとね、応援するお店とかがあって、で、ちょっと写真とか売ってたりするのが、まあ、昔の新大久保だったと思うんだけど、でも今はもう、K-POP とかね、アイドルたちの、そういう写真とかね、もう売ってたりとか、化粧品売ってたりとか、なんかそういうのが増えてる気がする。
I am surprised, just generally speaking, about like I wonder what was going on in 1990. Oh, you know what this could be, and I wish I had total numbers now that I'm thinking about this, but it could be the case that as it's gone easier for immigration into Japan from other countries, the relative, the basically, because this is all relative, like the amount of numbers, you know,
うん。
they're all relative to each other. So if there's a whole lot of Americans, it's going to make it look like Korea's smaller, and and over time, you have less immigrants in general in Japan. And so now I think one of the reasons that Korea shrunk is maybe not because the total amount of numbers are shrinking, but just their proportion to other countries is shrinking. I
まあそう
definitely want to
ね。
hear your thoughts about kind of there's an elephant in the room here, which we'll talk about men in a second, but I mean, I'll just mention it that US is almost non-existent for Japanese men, as in Japanese men in terms of other relationships. It's barely on the graph on the men's side towards women, but on the women's side towards men, it is second place. And I'm
まあ、
wondering if you have thoughts about
そう
that.
ね。うん、まあ、サーツっていうか、まあ、なんて言うんだろうね。そもそも日本のさ、あのー男の人ってそんなに、なんて言うんだろう。海外で働くことってあんま、なんていうの、まあ、もちろんいるよ。それはいるんだけどさ。でも、そんなに、飛び回らないし、プラス、なんか飛び回ってる人でもね、海外に単身赴任とか行ってる人でも、日本に家族がいる人が多いから、その相手の国の、誰かと出会って結婚っていうよりかは、もうなんかもう日本人の妻がいるみたいな人が多い気がするけど、
Okay, that's interesting. The way you're thinking about this is I was not thinking about it in this way.
そう。で、プラスでさ、例えばじゃあ女の人ね。女の人って大体日本にいるじゃん。で、まあ、
I'm
そ
not
の、
necessarily agreeing with that. In my
で、
opinion, I don't
うん、
think a lot of these relationships are starting in another country, but uh,
そうか。まあいいや。で、
continue.
他の国の男の人が日本来ます。で、出会って日本ね、なんか結婚してみたいな。っていうのと、あと、まあ、この前なんか話したっけ知らんけどさ、なんか、いわゆる、ポーンサイトでなんか、アジア人はめちゃめちゃ人気みたいなさ、よくあるじゃん。アジア人の女の人みたいな。
Yeah, we've talked about it before. Yeah, in
そうそう
terms
そ
of
う。
in terms
で、
of I would you call them incel stats. In terms of incel stats, it is the case that
で、
yeah,
あれね、
Asians are popular.
日本人の男性は一番不人気っていう、不名誉なことがあるので、それも関係してんじゃない
Oh, you're right. I guess this does
知ら
correlate
ん
with
けど
that.。Well, the other thing I want to point out now that I'm thinking about it is military actually probably has a pretty big impact. Because obviously there are women in the military, but if you're being stationed, I think historically it probably would be the case that most, like the majority. I mean, I'd want to look, but I'm assuming the majority of the combat army. And when I was in Okinawa, the majority, I'll at least to say the most obvious military people were men. And so maybe that's one of the reasons as well. They're so common, or out of the foreign relationships. It's just because they're already there as a presence. Part of me also does want to say, and maybe this isn't true, maybe it is true, but this is like how much of this is cultural in terms of there being, like, I'll say that at least for my, I talked about this on the podcast a while ago. Maybe people might remember, but when I was in Japan studying abroad, one of the students in my class ran a survey across the college men at the college I was at, asking like what they were looking for in a partner. And the number one response outside of being hot was being stupid. I'm
Oh,
not
yeah.
even kidding. It was like literally just hot, dumb. And it was like intelligent, actively unattractive. And I think, I mean, maybe I don't know how you feel
For
about this,
any
but
women in general.
yes, for who they're looking for in a partner. And I think the average American, just across the board, especially, American women, to some degree, to a Japanese man, is either maybe too talkative or maybe too self-assertive, or I think there might be some degree of that. Do you think that plays any role?
まあ、そうね。結構ね、日本の男の人って亭主関白っていうかなんて言うんだろうね。亭主関白を
Yeah, that was a
あの、
wife at home.
説明すると、まあそうね、そうそうそう。女の人は家でステイして、家事とかして子供の世話するべきだとか、まあね、男の人が働いてね、男の人だけが働くみたいなそういうなんか考え方、亭主関白って言うんだけど、まあそういう人がまあ未だに普通にまあいる感じはある。まあなんか昔よりかはまだ多分数は少ないかなとは思うんだけど。で、まあそうね、そういう考え方の人ちょっと私無理。
I will say, what do you think about Philippines being the reverse of that? Philippines being almost non-existent in the women's side, and then it's so high. Like even nowadays, it looks like it's hard to see in the screen.
もう一回、
like
どういうこと
20% kind of.
ど
I'm
ういうこ
talking
と
about Japanese men dating Philippine women. I mean, marrying Philippine women is
あ
really high on the men's side, but not on the women's side.
あれじゃないそもそもさ、これがね、そう、これ多分知らない人多いかもしれないけど、結構フィリピンの女の人って出稼ぎで日本に来る人が多いのね。で、まあなんていうの、ちょっと、まあ言葉悪いけどさ、まあ水商売っていうかね、Red Light District で働いてたりとか、スナックのママとか結構いるんよね。で、そう、結構昔にそういうのが流行ってて、出稼ぎのために日本来てっていうのがね、多くて。で、
And it didn't. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
フィリピンの、
just to be fair here, are you saying that Japanese men are more susceptible to like a Philippine guy couldn't come and woo a Japanese woman, but like a Japanese guy is horny enough to just see a Philippine woman
そう
and
そう
go,
そう。そうだし、
okay.
プラ
I
ス
mean,
ね、
I
多
kind
分
of agree
ね
with you.
フィリピンの男の人とあんま見たことないかも。女の人はめちゃめちゃいるけ
I
ど。
actually think yeah.
そう、だから、
not
まあ
in
そも
Japan,
そもね、
yes.
多分フィリピンってさ、まあ、なんていうの、まあ日本と比べたらもちろんさ、developing country じゃん。発展途上国で、若い女の人ね、もう十何歳とかね。で、まあ日本に来て、まあ家にお金を送るために日本でそういう、まあなんていうの、ね、女の人の、まあそういう仕事をして、で、まあね、家族をね、助けるみたいな、そういう意味合いで来る人が結構昔多くて、で、まあそれで、まあね、日本の、まあそういうスナックとかで働いて、日本の男の人に出会って、まあ結婚っていうパターンが結構多くて、まあそうね、だから多いんだと思う。この日本人男性がフィリピンの女の人と結婚する割合。そもそもフィリピンの男の人あんま見たことないかも。
I've known some, but in Japan, I don't definitely see as many. The Brazil, I think, is slightly interesting. I know there was a historical reason for that.
あ、そうね、ブラジルは、まあ
Advertising
そう
for
ね。
Brazil.
そう、昔、プランテーションって言って、なんか移民、日本からブラジルに、コーヒー農園でなんか移民しましょうみたいな、そういう確かムーブメントがあって、
Yeah, just a really good. It's funny because the kind of tourism that happened was less tourism, more like just making Japanese people leave
So,
like, they really were good at advertising Brazil.
で、まあそういうブラジルが多いのかなっていうので、か
I
な
want
ち
to
ょっと
talk a
ペルー
little
わ
bit
かんないけど。
about the specific Korean race, just because that came in the news recently. But on the men's side of the thing, we've talked about the 4B movement on the podcast. But I think like when you look at it historically, to me, it doesn't seem, even with like a 40% increase, which I don't know, maybe that puts, I wish I had that, I can't believe I forgot to put the data here, but maybe that puts it around 25%, maybe even 30% or something like that. If you look at historical trends, you realize that like, at least relative to the other nations, it isn't like even though it is number one, it's, you know, it's always kind of been number one. And so I don't think reading into this specific change is like this yearly change is really the full story here. There's is clearly Japanese women for one reason or another, like out of international relationships, tend to prefer dating Korean men. But I will say that there is, like, on the Korean men's side, when there's an interview on YouTube I saw about this, there was kind of this idea that they were like framing Japanese, basically because, you know, you remember the 4B movement thing, Korean men, there's kind of like a gender war with, you know, Korean women kind of taking a stance against, the society and, you know, pointing out its sexism, and then men getting really defensive about it. And so when people were being interviewed, the men were basically framing it as like Japanese women are more docile and woman-like, and so they're easy, and they'll let us work and make and pay the bills. Do you think that is the case, comparing Japanese men and women?
まあそうね、その日本の女の人のさ、まあ美徳っていうのが、そのなんで日本の女の人が好きかっていうので、まあよく言われてるのが、夫より前に出ない。で、陰から支える、にこやかに笑うっていうね、で、あんまり文句を言わない。違う。文句を言わないっていうのが、まあ日本の女の人のいい点みたいなので、まあよく言われてて、だからその、
Do you feel like it's true though? Especially like recently? I don't know. Personally for me, I don't know. Like, I definitely think traditionally with, you know, older Japanese women, I can see that personality trait. But with younger Japanese women, I don't feel like that's the case. Like, maybe
younger.
Actually, I'm probably in a bit, to be honest, I'm probably in a very biased situation because I'm around so many female doctors. Which is probably not the average environment.
いや結構でもやっぱり、その、まあ、世の中で好かれる性格っていうのが、男の人を立てるような。で、まあ、ニコニコ笑っている、あんまり、発言しない、assertive じゃないってことが、やっぱり好まれる。で、まあそうね、可愛ければいいみたいな、そういう感じ。で、プラス、そうね、やっぱりこれ言われてるのは多分、韓国とかの人の方がね、やっぱり自分の意見言うと思うよ。まあ、日本の授業でもそんなにそのディスカッションとかあんまりないし、まあ、それね、まあ、国民性なのかもしれんけど、あんまりね、そうね、それはあんま好かれない、主張的なのがね。
Okay. I guess maybe I'm blessed by being around so many.
いや、まあそうね。だってそもそもさ、あれじゃん。
Not even in the doctor setting, even places I naturally find, even places where I naturally find myself, like just I encounter.
でもさ、you're around. あれでしょ。
I'm not even talking about doctors, to be clear. I'm talking about people outside of that I've met as well. Like I've met a lot of outgoing Japanese women, and so maybe I'm.
でもさ、違うよ。ジョイのoutgoingってさ、あれでしょ。どうせボードゲームとかに行くようなさ、いわゆる一軍女子ではないじゃん。
I'm not just talking about that, but I guess you're saying that I have a selection bias because the types of thing I like to do lead me to find people who are like that.
そう、だって、you don't go to clubs.
The men I encounter in the places I go aren't like the women I encounter in the places I go. So I don't know what that means, but I'm saying like, I found that if anything, the men I've met have been more passive and, you know, and I to me, I think being assertive is a good thing, to be very clear. I'm not critiquing Japanese women, but yeah, let us know. I mean, I don't know. How do I phrase this? A not creepy question. I'm not going to ask if you're trying to marry a Japanese woman. Whatever, but let us know what you think about this phenomenon. Do you have any thoughts? We'll link the article that has the graph that we were looking at because it was pretty important, but hopefully you could get an idea of the trends. To me, it seems like taking 1 year change and like overreading into it doesn't seem like it's going to tell you the full story. But yeah, let us know. 戻りました。
We're back.
今週、ナタ、窓のお暴れを見たんだけど、この映画はそもそも何と思ってる人は多くいると思うんですけど、この映画は、まあ、ウィキペディアによると、史上最高の、なんていうの、アニメの売り上げ を持つ、映画のタイトルです。
Mm.
で、
how do you
この映画は、まあ聞いたことあるかな？
no. How do you call it in English?
英語だと、ネジャーかな？
Ninja.
その
Is it even in
何回
English?
も英語でネジャーって出てきた。
Okay.
そう、主人公の名前がネジャー。
Ninja. Okay.
日本語だとナタらしい。
I have no idea.
そう、私も3日前、まあ、映画見た日になんかオンライン調べたら、この映画はなんか一番お金重かった映画、まあ、映画というかアニメ。でも、すべての映画の中でなんか5位とか4位だと思
What? Is it like recently
そう、2025年
produced?
今年。
Okay. I've
でも
never
アメ
heard
リカ
of the
では
name.
ほぼ儲かってない。ほとんど、なんか 90% 以上が中国。
Inside China.
そ
Yeah, like I don't think Japanese theaters have this anime movie, yeah, here. So I've never seen this.
う。そう、ドルだと22億ドルぐらい儲か
Okay.
ってる、今までは。で、例えば日本の、まあ、鬼滅の刃とかはどれぐらいかな？比べ物にならない。そもそも載ってないし。
Yeah. Like, I wonder, like, so this is basically China has the most population, and that's why, right?
そう、まあそうだと思う、個人的に。でも今まではこういうことがなかったので、なんで前に同じようなことが起こらなかったかというと、多分アニメーション自体はうまく、なんていう、スタジオがなかったかな？わかんない。この映画は、まあ、中国語の文化が、中国語っていうか、中国の文化が起きて、でもスタイル的になんかディズニーに似ている。でも違いは一応あるけど、なんか普通のディズニーの映画と違う、なんか大きな違う点としては、暴力たくさんある。
So it's
なん
not
か人
for
がなんか
kids?
そう腕切られ、いやいやいや、でも子供用ファミリー映画だと思う。
Huh.
多分
So
それが
maybe
文
it's
化の違
like
いだけで。
Demon Slayer, didn't I? Like,
いやいや
I
いや
heard
いやい
it's
やいや
like kind of
い
dark.
やいやいや、いやいや、そんな感じではない。
So,
もう本当になんかファミリーの子供、まあ子供のようっていうかファミリーの映画だけど、多分中国の文化ではその暴力とかはそんなにNG ではない。なんかわかる？例えばなんか日本だとまあアニメはエロい、なんかエッチなシーンがあったら、このアニメはなんかそのシーンがあるけど、まだまだなんか少年ジャンプに入ってるみたいな。でも逆にアメリカだと、そういうなんかエッチなシーンとか、それがあると、子供用、そういうイメージがなくなる。多分中国だと暴力は、なんていう、子供が見てはいけないことではないかなと思った。
I'm not gonna say this, but like you have like a biased prejudice. I don't know.
何の？
Maybe because China has like Kung Fu, I recently saw, like, it was yesterday actually. Yeah. Karate Kid. Yeah, and then it was like fighting ね、karate とカンフーのミクスチャーみたいな。
なぜ暴力はダメじゃないかというと。
Yeah. So, yeah, fighting against people is kind of like cool for Chinese people, maybe? I don't know. It's art.
まあ、日本でも暴力は大体 OK だと思うんだけど。なんか、鬼滅の刃みたいな映画は、まあ、子供用の映画じゃないんだけど、今となってはめっちゃ人気なので、なんかファミリーは一緒に行くことになってる。
Oh, I wonder, Avatar? 何なんか Airbender みたいな。was the anime, right? Is it from America?
まあ、アニメじゃない。
in China?
英語でアニメではない。日本語だとアニメです。
Is it from China or from America?
アメリカのアニメーション、アメリカのアニメーションだけど、文化は中国から。
Okay.
かな？
Okay. Yeah, but I was surprised because this Chinese anime movie, is that right?
Yeah.
Surpassed.
Cartoon.
Yeah, cartoon. Surpassed all Disney movies.
そう。
ね、Lion King とか Frozen とか、like, ね、Toy Story even.
ちなみに、アメリカだと、売り上げは、どれぐらいだったっけ ?800 万じゃなくて、8000万ドルぐらい。
Okay.
8000万だけ。でも、総売り上げは22億なので、本当にほとんどが中国。
God. Like, there's too many Chinese people, じゃん in this world.
いや、そんなこと言ってない。そんなこと言ってない。面白いかなと思っただけ。
Chinese people are everywhere だし。
いや、それ差別的な話にしないで。で、私、
まあね
逆に
でもさ
私映画見たときに、上映見たときに、私以外は、最初の映画の半分では、中国人は、ほとんどの人は中国人だったけど、半分ぐらいが過ぎると、謎のじいさんが、なんていう白人のじいさんが入ったから、唯一の中国人でいなくなったんだけど、ほぼほとんどの時は私だけが中国人じゃなかったので、なんか、アイダホではそういう他の文化、少なくとも。
How do you know they're Chinese なの ?You didn't even talk to them.
中国語で話してたから。
Okay.
そう、みんな。
Makes sense.
でも、この映画は、これも、あいみの意見に気になるんだけど、日本語の映画があるときは、ほとんどの時は日本語の元々の音声を使う。日本語の音声で英語字幕。でも、この映画だと私、中国語を期待してたのに、
You don't even know what they're saying.
英語の吹き替えで、もちろん字幕はなかった。でも、私以外は全員中国だったし、私中国聞きたかったから、これは差別的な理由だけかなと思った。なんか、そのスタジオとか、わかんない。どうやってこの映画はアイダホに来たかよくわからないんだけど、とりあえず、アイダホでは中国語を聞くと、なんかみんなは怖がるから、英語吹き替え、なんかやらないといけないと思った人がいたかな。わかんない。
I don't know. Like, did it say?
わかるかな。そのアメリカ人が日本語を聞くと、あんまり、なんか怖がらないけど、中国語だと逆の印象になるかな。
I want to ask you if, I don't know, when they promoted this movie, did it say that this movie is from China where it's a Chinese cartoon company?
一見
Do
です
people
ぐ
know
わか
that?
ると思うけど。いや、タイトルが NEZHA だから、それだけで中国からの映画がわかるかな。
I don't know. But like,
でも、どうぞ。
I guess, yeah, like, especially Idaho, there are, I don't know, a few Chinese people, I guess?
アイダホというか、売り上げを見れば、アメリカ人ほとんどは興味なかったみたい。
So, yeah, I don't know.
でも、私、この映画をするかどうかは、意外と面白かった。少しなんか長すぎるかなと思ったし、で、英語吹き替えで見たから、その英語吹き替えはマジでやばかったけど、それ以外のところに関しては、もちろんディズニーのファミリー映画という点から見ると、普段より面白かった。でも、そこまでなんか1位を取るぐらいの面白い映画だと思わなかったので、あいみも今度見てほしい。
I don't want to.
ぜひぜひ見てください。And we're back with the final section. And if you made to the final section, that means you send an email to lazyfluency@gmail.com with a comment, question, language related, and or otherwise. And this week we have a comment from Ariana. And it goes as follows. I object to Joey's analogy, as in my analogy from last week about language learning, which I compared it to, whatever, just read your comment, but that's what she's talking about. Reaching an advanced language proficiency is not like slowly being boiled alive. In language education, we liken the proficiency levels to steps in an inverted pyramid. The higher you go, the broader scope of knowledge and skills needed to advance to the next level. A novice learner experiences rapid gains and can quickly move up a level, but upper intermediate or advanced learners need vast experience and practice to move higher in that widening frame of knowledge. Thanks as always for an enjoyable podcast. Thank you for the comment, Ariana. And I object to your objection.
反対の反対します。
So I understand, what is it? Igari.
意義あり。
The Ace Attorney. Although I do appreciate the objection. So I understand about the, what is it called? The CEFL, like the European framework of languages and how they frame things with, C2 being at the top and then describing a general range of skill sets. But being real about the actual felt experience of language learning, I've kind of put how the reason I don't think, like, I think this is like the European framework is helpful for the point of testing, which is kind of like the point, of it. But in terms of like being closest to I think my actual perception about how I feel with language learning, I kind of have put it into a different analogy, but we'll bring the frog back. I think in whether this be a word or it's a phrase is something that, I think linguistics is still like debated over. But how I think about it is every single phrase or chunk or block or whatever that you interact with in Japanese is its own skill tree. Are you familiar with like skill trees in like an RPG? Like a video game where you like level up a skill? Like you have strength, you have stamina, you have intelligence, and you're like leveling them up over time. Maybe you haven't played a game like that.
トレーニングされて、コイン集めて、新しいアーマ
Yeah,
ー
and then
変
you
え
get
て、
then you get new
グレー
abilities.
ドアップ
So I
し
see,
て、
yeah, I see
今ゼルダ思い
every
出した。
single word. Yeah, I see every single word or phrase as part of its own skill tree. And the reason I'm phrasing it this way is because like you can feel like you're an A2, and I feel like you can be described as an A2 in the European framework, but you just get thrown into. And I think A2 specifically does define the area that you can talk about. To be clear, I think A2, if I'm remembering correctly, does specify daily conversations. But even within daily conversations, you can be, for example, if you throw somebody in Japan and all the daily kitchen conversations revolve around vegetables they've never heard of, they suddenly cannot communicate at an A2 level. You see what I'm saying? Like if someone isn't familiar with Goya, like, Okinawan Goya, they're not familiar with champuru. They're not familiar with onigiri. And you throw them into a conversation with a Japanese person, like a mother. And this has happened to me when I studied abroad. Literally, is one of the first comments my host mother made. She said, when you're talking about politics, I was like, wow, you're so fluent. But then we start talking about foods and you seem lost.
Yeah.
She told me that.
知らないからね。知らないから。
But did I drop in my European proficiency level?
No.
Or was I... You know what I'm saying? To me, if I was being evaluated on the spot there, they'd be like, oh no, whatever level, you're actually not that level. And so to me, I feel inconsistent. Now, I do think like you can design tests around these levels, and I think it's helpful in that sense. But I'm saying like, to me, it feels more like, hey, I have all my words or block skill trees. That wasn't the environment for them though, and every situation requires a different set of those. And yeah, so that's kind of maybe defense of my thing. And by the way, the boiling frog, every one of, that was talking about like how the experience is felt for the learner. In my case, like between levels. And you can think about it if you want to use your analogy. That's kind of what using the boarding flag. I was saying like as you level up into different, I use like the N1 or N2 or maybe doing a specific task. The boiling frog in my example was demonstrating that I cannot determine the point at which I gained that fluency. I can't determine the point at which I was able to watch anime without subtitles. I can't determine the point when I was able to read Japanese books without having a dictionary on hand. And in that sense is relative boiling frog. But because I'm being asked about, more detail about my opinion, that is why, I gave this really weird language skill tree example, which hopefully made some sense. And it's not really the most helpful language for testing, but it is how I feel. It's just like, hey, what words have you interacted with? And and then the more that's the case, the more comfortable you are in that domain. The less of them are used in that domain, the less comfortable you feel, and suddenly you're less proficient. My apologies for talking so much, Amy. I don't know if you have any thoughts on this, but frog boiling.
Yeah. I'm fine.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, thank you for the comment, and hopefully that I don't know if that brought clarity, but the Joey's mind, at least you got insight into the Joey mind. That bell means we've reached the end of today's episode. Thanks for joining us in another lazy conversation towards fluency. If you have any language-related questions and are looking for general advice, send an email to lazyfluency@gmail.com and we might respond in the next episode. Also, consider supporting us on Ko-Fi to get video updates, Discord access, and or just lend a hand. And finally, make sure to check out our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and more. We'd appreciate the support. This has been Joey.
And Amy.
Signing off.
じゃあねー。